Gone are the days when we could play a game without knowing everything about it beforehand. When I first popped Metal Gear Solid 3 into the PlayStation 2, do you know what I thought? Damn, I can't wait to see what Solid Snake and Otacon are gonna get up to in this game. Boy, was I in for a shock. I hadn't tried to avoid any information about the game, nor did I actively seek it out. Yet here we are years later and people literally cannot avoid Metal Gear Solid 5 spoilers. And the game isn't even out yet. So select games media outlets have been allowed to play Metal Gear Solid 5 at length at special review events, holed up in a swanky hotel, expenses covered, playing the version of Metal Gear Solid 5 that Konami have chosen, probably not the PC version. Also that they can be the first to post their review of Metal Gear Solid 5, and Konami can bag as many pre-orders and day one purchases as possible. There are, of course, several problems with this. Number 1, these aren't even full reviews. The online components of Metal Gear Solid 5 have not yet been reviewed, because they have not yet been played. Some of the reviewers state they will edit the post at a later date, or post a second review just for the online play. This only serves to inconvenience the consumer, as they'll either have to sift back through to see if the review has been updated, or they'll have to look through multiple reviews on the same site just to get the information that they want. It seemed to me that this online component was a pretty major part of the game if you chose to play it. The fact that Konami didn't allow for these reviewers to play the online component should come as a surprise to nobody. But for something that might play heavily into the mechanics of Mother Base, it should have been covered in the full review, not left till a later date. Number 2, massively increased chance of leaked information or story spoilers. I think it's safe to say that the majority of people who will buy Metal Gear Solid 5 would have done so anyway, regardless of these early reviews or the scores. These are people who want to experience the game for themselves. It's nice to know the general score of a game, but a week before it's even released? When you invite people to play your game extensively, you run an increased chance of spoilers being spread around the internet. Even just little hidden things that people might prefer to discover themselves. If someone comes across these spoilers after the release, you could just say, well, you should have probably played it by now. But before anyone could even possibly get their hands on the game, now that's just cruel. The Kinda Funny Games YouTube channel has been posting Let's Plays of full missions. For one, I don't know why anyone would want to lessen their experience by watching someone else play huge chunks of a game before they get the chance. Secondly, barely any other YouTube channel has access to the game at this point. Kinda Funny Games has been posting constantly about Metal Gear Solid 5 and has posted several Let's Plays, more than any other game they've covered. This is simply because they know it will drive traffic to them. Usually I'd say fair enough, but this isn't a level playing field. Number 3, no disclosure. Not one of these early reviewers has mentioned just how or why they suddenly have access to Metal Gear Solid 5 well before its release date. There is a clear conflict of interest here. When things like this are systematically not disclosed on such a large scale, it makes the whole profession of games journalism seem more shady than even the music industry. Konami should be confident enough in their product to just have the game reviewed as every other game would, and journalists should be confident in the quality of their criticism. Number 4, limited time leads to rushed reviews. Another game that everyone was rushing to review first was Metal Gear Solid 4, and as we've mentioned in our still ongoing retro perspective review of the game, the reviewers didn't really take the time to know just how broken and awful the game was. They gave perfect 10s to a game that was far from perfect and pushed the reviews out hoping to get the most traffic. While I am confident that Metal Gear Solid 5 will be leagues above 4, how can we trust these reviewers who spend a limited time with the game and assume they know enough to do a full review? Especially when Metal Gear Solid 5 seems so complex. Of the reviews I've read, I already see 2 massive omissions, things that I would have covered in as much depth as possible and not even mentioned once. First, Troy Baker as Ocelot. He is terrible. He ruins Ocelot, he sounds ridiculous and nothing like Patrick Zimmerman, whose voice is ingrained in my head. Now Troy Baker's great at impressions, so why did he not just impersonate Patrick Zimmerman? Instead he just decides to do his own thing. Second, is the enemy AI as bad as it was in Metal Gear Solid 4? Is there more of a military precision focus with Motosada Mori taking the helm as he did in Metal Gear Solid 2, where the enemy AI works together to flush out or corner Snake? Now these are never mentioned once. You would think that at least one of these early reviews would have mentioned these very pressing issues. So what do you think? Are early reviews damaging the gaming industry or sucking a bit of excitement out of releases? Or do you find they give a fair representation of a game you may or may not buy on day one? I've been Jake of GamesNosh.com. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video and check out GamesNosh.com for more video game features and news.